Focus. Focus up. I'm talking to you, Seattle Seahawks. Great win last night against the Eagles. I know AC and Jimmy Mack are not going to be happy today, but I know Charles Jr. is. Welcome to episode 48 of the Rubio Method. My name is Chris Rubio. I want to thank you guys for all subscribing and sharing on Spotify, therubiomethod.com, ngbn.tv, Apple, YouTube, Google, and Amazon. We've got a phenomenal show for you today. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Ready? New Year's Eve goals. Being bigger is better. 1 year anniversary of a tragedy. Someone wants to hear my skydiving story again. Unbelievable heart rate. You're not going to believe this one. I still don't believe it. A music group you will either love or hate. Star Wars characters. Preventing suicide. Finding out what triggers someone. All that and much, much more on episode 48 of the Rubio Method. I'm out. Focus, focus up. I'm talking to you, the lady in the Salt Lake City airport bathroom that I went to yesterday. I'm walking into this bathroom. There's about 15 urinals. It's a big, big bathroom. And all of a sudden I'm about to do my thing. And a lady, business lady, about 50 years old, on her cell phone, rolls out of a stall, looks at me and she goes, "Oh my God, I'm in the wrong bathroom." Yeah, you were, but it was funny. We laughed. She had a good time. She sprinted out of there. Welcome back to episode 48 of the Rubio Method. Let's see what the Minute with Monaghan is all about.
Hey guys, welcome to today's Minute with Monaghan. We have a fun one as always, and it's that time of year where we take a look at how we've done this past year and what we want for next year. And so one of the big things we always talk about is goals, right? So we got 3 ways to help you write better goals this year. Number 1 is make them clear, make them objective, right? I want to do this. I want to do X, Y, and Z. I want to make this much amount of money. I want to lose this much weight. What have you. Again, losing weight is always kind of an interesting one, but make sure that it is clear, right? The next is obtainable. We always talk about making clear and obtainable goals, but we want your goals to be obtainable, right? Don't make it outrageous. Now, you can have some goals that are a little bit higher than what you think you may be able to reach, but don't make them so out of reach that you can't get to them at all. And number 3, last but not least, is set different goals for different areas of your life. Set a health goal, maybe a monetary goal, any type of other goal, maybe a family goal, any type of goal you could think of that you want to see in your life and you want to see yourself succeed in. Make different type of goals for different areas of your life. And that is your Minute with Monaghan.
Well done to Monaghan. Obviously, he's really busy with being a Minnesota police officer, saving the lives up in that cold dungeon up there. Those were good. 3 goals for New Year's. I like those. Just to clarify, number 1, make sure they're clear. Obviously, I cleared that one up. Be specific. Number 2, obtainable. Yeah, don't say I'm going to lose 100 pounds in a month. That's not going to happen unless you chop your legs off or something. And number 3, different goals for different parts of your life. I like those. Well done, Monaghan. Good job. All right, let's go to some email questions. Remember, you can email me, rubio@therubiomethod.com, rubio@therubiomethod.com anytime about anything, about health. I don't care, just mental, just anything you want. Rubio, this comes from Frank in Chicago, Illinois. Rubio, I know you fly a lot, so I wanted to know what you think of Southwest Airlines' new policy regarding bigger passengers. Okay, so for those that don't know, Southwest Airlines just had a policy that basically if you're obese, you can just request an extra seat and they will give you one. Because if you've ever sat next to someone who's, let's say, above X amount of weight, they're pouring into your seat. I've told you a story on here. I think one time I was flying from Louisiana and I was in the back row, couldn't recline, anything like that. And there was a guy, I was in the middle seat. For some reason, I got stuck there. And last seat on the plane, and all of a sudden this guy comes up and he's probably 5'10", and I'm going to say 450 pounds. I'm like, oh God, please don't sit next to me. Don't sit next to me. And of course, he sat next to me and he wouldn't move the arm bar up. And so he was basically breaking his ribs and he was just pouring into me. I mean, sweating all over. What do I think about this policy? I think it's really stupid. Are they going to do the same thing for tall people? I mean, I personally think they should weigh everyone as they get on the plane. It was one of those things where, like, I'm 6'2", 240 pounds, I should have to pay more than, say, someone who's 5 foot, 180 pounds. They're not taking up any space. They're fitting in their thing. I'll tell you right now, me and another big guy getting on a plane, we're sitting next to each other. It's battle of the arm bars. We're going at it, and I'll sharpen my elbows if I have to. So what do I think about it, Frank? I think it's stupid. I think it's really, really dumb. You're going to start doing it for tall people? What are you going to do for people with super long legs? It's just dumb. Next question from Steve in San Antonio. Rubio, if I'm not mistaken, aren't we at the 1-year anniversary of Monaghan going to the Harley-Davidson Museum without you? Why, yes, we are. It always happens right around the same weekend. It's about the first weekend in December because we had the Patrick Manley Award out in Chicago. Patrick Manley Award is a long snapper award given to the best college long snapper. Shout out to Joe Shimko. He won from NC State. This year, he did not go to the Harley-Davidson Museum. We got to hang out and have a good time. Yeah, Sub 60 Ed right now says he should get half price. Exactly. He should get half price. I'm all for that. If he's sub 60, get half price, because it doesn't, you're getting fired up now, sub 60, because if I'm 6'2", 240 and I put 3 bags on and each bag is, say, 75 pounds because I'm high level of Delta, well, then I'm what, a 600 pound man now? They can do that, but sub 60 Ed still has to pay the same price? Not fair to sub 60s. All right. Now, where was I? Sub 60. You got me all fired up. Oh, back to Monaghan. We had a good time. Yes, I brought up the Harley-Davidson Museum a ton. We were going through the Chicago football team's locker room, and he wanted to get a towel or something like that. I said, get me one too, man. Get me one too. He goes, okay. He goes, gets himself one. I go, where's mine? He goes, I got scared. I couldn't get you one. Monaghan, you're already taking one. Why didn't you just get me one too? So I wish he was here because I'd make fun of him again. And final question, Donna in Newport, Oregon. Can you please tell the skydiving story again? Yes, I know you've already told, but I can't find the episode and I want to show my mom. All right, Donna, here we go. So probably about 7 years ago, I've always told my wife that I wanted to go skydiving. She's like, Rubio, you would never do it. Yes, she calls me Rubio. And I said, yeah, I would. She goes, you're not even a daredevil. You wouldn't do any of that crap. And I go, 100%. I know I'm not a daredevil. I'm not doing any of that stuff. We have like a Sea-Doo and I never ride it because it goes too fast. I think it's stupid. So she goes, okay. So we're at my son's basketball game, and all of a sudden at halftime, she says, we got to go. We got to go right now. Okay. So we leave, just thinking, well, this is kind of weird. It's right around Father's Day, and we started driving to this city called Orofino. It's about 30 minutes east of where I live right now in Lewiston, Idaho. And we basically drive out to their airport. For those that are watching on YouTube and Spotify video, I just did some air quotes because this is not a real airport. This is maybe like 4 guys put popsicle sticks down for a runway. You have 2 guys with flashlights doing this, maybe not even in sync. And it's basically just a patch of dirt in the field. And there's these broken down planes and there's people lined up and they say, okay, you're here for skydiving. I said, okay, let's do it. I'm all in. And my wife's like, you are not going to do it. She paid basically to see me back out of it, just to rub it in my face. And I go, let's do it. So we're in Orofino, Idaho. We're not in a big city. So they basically just weigh you with like a CVS scale that was probably $4 that bought in 1987. They weigh you, and the bigger the person, the smaller the instructor goes with you. So I was a big guy, okay, 6'2", 240. So they have to put a smaller human being with me. Basically, they're going to strap onto me. So they give me this guy who's about sub 60 Ed's height. He's maybe 5'2", and he's probably about 130 pounds. It looks like a 10-year-old boy. And he says, hey, I'm going to be your partner on this. I'm like, oh, what's this guy going to do? How's this even going to work? Because I remember if he goes on the back of me, in front of me, I've never done this. So we walk out to this plane, and this plane, I'm not joking, had duct tape on the outside and the inside. And it's supposed to hold like, I think 5 or 6 people. And there was 8 people in there with the pilot. And I'm not joking. He had Sharpies on duct tape showing like directions on how to fly the plane. That's how bad it was. So I can barely fit in this. It's basically like a dog door for a St. Bernard. I kind of crawl in there like this, and I'm facing backwards. So put my hand on the pilot's thigh if I want to. I'm facing backwards, and we're climbing. And this is just, I think I can. And we're going and going and going. We have to get to 12,000 feet. And so they say, okay, who wants to go first? I go, let me go first. Like at the doctors, if I got to get a shot, give me the shot first. Let me get the hell out of here. I just wanted, because I knew if I waited, I wouldn't be able to handle myself. So we're climbing. And he finally gets on my back and he goes, okay, I need you to get on your knees and put your butt on your heels. I go, oh, I can't do that. He goes, well, what do you mean you can't do that? I go, my knees will explode. I'm not that flexible. He goes, well, you have to. I go, I physically can't do it, man. I don't know what to tell you. I physically can't. And so I'm just on my knees, like in this little bathroom, basically. And he goes, well, I'm just going to have to latch on you and clip on, and you're going to have to hold me. Like, I'm going to hover on your back. I said, okay, like a backpack. Well done. That's what we got to do. And he goes, okay, so now I need you to put your foot out on that rail. So they have like a little bumper out of the plane outside the St. Bernard doggy door. And I go, hey man, I can't do that. I'm not flexible enough. He goes, you have to. And I don't know what to tell you. I go, you're going to have to lean left and then just tackle me out. He goes, you want me to tackle you out of a damn plane? I go, 1,000,000,000% if we're going to do this, because I physically can't do what you want. He goes, all right, Rubio, let's go. And boom, he just tackles me and boom, we start going. And it was absolutely phenomenal. If you ever have a chance to go skydiving, I highly recommend it. It's not as scary as you think. You're moving so fast down, you don't even know really what the hell's happening, but the view is unbelievable. Would I do it again? 1,000,000,000%, but I would do it with a real plane, like where they have the garage doors. Is any city in Idaho big, sub 68? Boise's big, Coeur d'Alene's big. Lewiston, where I live, is only about 35,000. All right, that's all for the email questions. Remember, you can always email Rubio at therubiomethod.com. Donna in Newport, Oregon, I hope you enjoyed that story and hope your mom enjoys it as well. We'll make sure we clip it so we can just put it out as a special YouTube short or whatever. Next up, we got a visit from the doc. I'm out.
Attention, gentlemen of distinction. Introducing NGBN.TV, the television network designed exclusively for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Your go-to destination for entertainment that speaks to you, inspires you, and celebrates the incredible journey of manhood. And here's the exciting news. NGBN.TV is coming to Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, and your favorite mobile devices. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, seeking self-improvement, or just looking for a good laugh, NGBN.TV has got you covered. Entertainment, inspiration, brotherhood. Coming soon to Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, and mobile devices. NGBN.TV, where men thrive. Focus up. I'm talking to you. One Shot Charlie's there, the first official sponsor of the Rubio Method. You ever get out to Coeur d'Alene Lake, go down on the southeast corner into Harrison, Idaho. It's my #1 spot in the world. They've got fantastic food during the summer. They've got bands. They are fantastic. Their food is delicious. What's up, Malcolm? He's a top chef there. And their bartenders are great. They even have a drink called the Rubio. Not kidding. So make sure you get out there. Welcome back to episode 48 of the Rubio Method. Make sure you continue to email me questions, Rubio at therubiomethod.com. Make sure you know that we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Apple, therubiomethod.com, and of course, NGBN.TV. Let's see what my favorite Irishman, actually the only Irishman I know, Doc Connor Hogan, has for us today.
Rubio, we are all special. We're all different. But sometimes we really don't know how different we are. British man Cameron Johnson, at only 24 years of age, went into hospital recently because he had dizzy spells. Didn't know why. They did simple tests on him. Checked through an ECG his heart rate and found something very unusual. Though he was presenting as a very healthy guy who kept fit, his heart rate was well below the 60 to 100 average beats per minute for the human being. How low was it? Well, let's just remember that the previous world record holder in this, with the lowest heartbeat, is an 81-year-old, very fit pensioner with 26 beats per minute. Cameron, though, at 24 years of age, was clocked with 22 beats per minute. Doctors said, go ahead, keep fit, do your 5K runs twice a week, and the cycling and the other stuff you're doing. We'll just monitor it now. Of course, usually athletes, professional athletes, you're well aware of these guys in their 30s and 40s are their beats per minute. That's when they're in their 20s and 30s. So 22 beats per minute, believe it or not.
22 beats per minute? That's like a damn sloth or like a koala bear or a manatee. There's no way that can be real. How I mean, that's unbelievable. What is the normal resting heart rate? Isn't it like
50 or 60? I know Dave Bradley's always talking about his heart rate, and that dude is super healthy. I think he's in the 50s or 60s. 22, that's insane. Good Lord. All right, we got to talk about something else. That's hurting my head right now. Jenna, can you bring out our guest, Craig Hannum? You guys are going to love this guy. Craig, what is going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Let me tell everyone who you are. You are an operations expert with extensive background in government, military, medical, law enforcement, and human resources, a certified by the Department of Defense and Employee Assistance Program and Suicide Prevention, and U.S. Army retired. Did I get it all right?
Yeah, you're on it, man.
Okay, so let's do some quick. First of all, let's go back. What the hell did you think about that 22 beats per minute?
That's insane. I'd be really scared if I got down to that low.
Yeah, I mean that's like
that's incredible.
If someone's in a coma, what are they at? I mean that's what I want to know. If they're in a coma,
30,
they got to be
between 30 and 40, I think, if you're in a coma.
Yeah, so this guy's like beyond coma.
Yeah, could be because of the dope and all the stuff they put in you. So to keep the body chill, but that's nuts.
Yeah, that's bizarre. All right, quick hitters for Craig. Ready? Number one, your favorite band is Rush. Every person I've ever spoke to about Rush either says they love them or they hate them. Why is that for that band?
So one thing I didn't tell you, I went to college before I joined the Army on a fine arts scholarship for vocal and instrumental music. So my two instruments of choice were the trombone and drums. And any band nerd always has a Rush t-shirt. So, and the reason why people either love them or hate them, we had a nickname for Rush growing up as a kid. It was a chick kryptonite. If you ever told a girl that you were dating that you loved Rush, like, no, I hate it. In fact, my soon-to-be bride, she can't stand Rush, but she loves me, so she deals with it.
Yeah, so PSA announcement for all the dudes out there: don't wear a Rush shirt if you're looking for a lady.
Yeah, don't do that on a first date. It will definitely kill the mood.
Craig, what's your favorite food?
Italian.
What specifically in Italian?
Oh man, anything with a red sauce. In fact, my lady makes an amazing vodka sauce. Oh, it's an emotional experience.
I'm sweating in all the right places right now just thinking about that. And last, if you could be any character in Star Wars, who would you be and why?
Darth Vader or Boba Fett. In fact, it's funny you brought that up because every time I go to like a restaurant, whatever, and say, hey, what's your name? We'll put your name down. If I say Craig, they always butcher it. One time, a dude at Starbucks, and I had my badge on when I was my last gig, and it had my name right there in big, bold print. And she's like, what's your name? I said, well, Craig. And she writes down K-R-E-G-G. So when I got the cup, I was like, I'm Norwegian? What is this? I don't understand. So anytime I go out, and I always embarrass my lady, and sometimes the staff, she's like, oh, can we get a name for you? I was like, yeah, Darth Vader. And it's very rare that somebody will look around and go, Darth Vader. In fact, I was at Waffles and More just last week, and the girl walks up and she's like, oh, your table's ready. I was like, no, we got to hear it. Come on. I can't.
That is too funny. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, Craig, when I introduced you, there's a lot of big time words used to describe what you do. I don't understand it. I want you to explain what you do to me like I'm a third grader.
Okay, give me a lead in.
Okay, so you're operations expert with extensive background in government, military, all that. I want you to explain that to me like I'm a third. Let's go fifth grader.
Okay, fifth grade. So I did 20 years, 29 days in the U.S. Army. I was a military police officer. Before that, I was in artillery reconnaissance, short range, long range reconnaissance. Then I crossed over to the military police corps because they have a barrage of training that they have allocated to them. When war broke out in 2001, I got attached to special operations. So I basically hunted terrorists for 17 years.
Okay, so now what do you do now?
Right now, I am a rehabilitation supervisor at the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections here in town. It's the new place that's up on the hill by the airport. We take in youth from, teenage age up till 21, rehabilitate them, get them their GED or high school equivalency. They can even take college credit from LC State. We change their mindset, and it is probably one of the best programs I've ever seen in the country. And I came from Arizona where they just do direct sentencing, which means if you have 6 months, you do 6 months and they could care less what you do with that time. Here, we actually get these guys on the straight and narrow before they get released.
How did you get involved in this?
When I moved up here from Tucson, Arizona, not California. That's important to say. Yeah, relocated up here because my lady, her daughter works up here. She's a veterinarian and she's a professor at the University of Idaho, and she wanted to be closer to her. Idaho was one of the 2 states I've never been to. I said, well, let's go check it out. So last October, we came to visit, fell in love with the valley. We got stuck here in December. We're supposed to be here for 6 days, and they couldn't get planes to Lewiston Airport because, as you eloquently described, the Lewiston Airport, we're low on the totem pole when it comes to getting planes out here for priority in a big storm. So, but we had the best white Christmas ever. So I said, let's put the house on the market. And we actually opened and closed escrow at the exact same date and time for Tucson and up here in our place up in here in Clarkston. So I applied to just many jobs. I didn't have to work, man. I'm retired. And get involved. I love being involved in my community. So when I applied to that gig, I actually applied to one of the teaching positions. And I didn't know how the rules worked in Idaho. In Arizona, if you've got a grad degree, you can teach anything except elementary. And they said, no, we're gonna design a position for you and make you a supervisor. Here's what we want you to do: help us rebuild our program, make it better. I said, okay, wow, I'm the you, so don't put me on the spot. But I absolutely love it. I really do. And it's my behind the scenes community service, and that's how I like to operate. Kind of behind the scenes and face to face with people. I don't need to be on the podium. I just want to shake my hand, tell me I'm doing a good job, and let me move on with the rest of my life. So I dig it. It's a good way to give back to this community because they're going to go back out there, and they're the future citizens of this area. So
That's a great point. Yeah, you're 100% correct. We talked on the phone earlier about how you worked with the military about suicide prevention and all that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. As soon as I retired, I was literally that guy who retired at 1300 in uniform on a Friday and was in a suit that following Monday. They hired me directly to be the Army Suicide Prevention Program Manager, and it was great. It was more than I expected, and in truth, it was a little bit more stressful. Those 4 years was a little bit more stressful than my 20+ years in uniform because we were broke. The whole process, how we approach suicide, how we reinforce stigma within leadership, and I'm guilty of it too. When war broke out, if a troop said, hey, I'm suicidal to avoid deployment, man, my answers were very simple. You're a sissy. You're a wuss. I got time for this. Go sit in the corner. Be out of sight, out of mind. We got a job to do. Our approach was we were very calloused about it. So when I got offered the job, as soon as my retirement got approved, my director, my former director at the time, he said, I want to make you the suicide prevention program manager. I was like, are you sure? Because I was a tactical guy. When I got called, it was, to do violent stuff. I was like, I don't think I'm the guy for this job. He's like, no, you're perfect for it. It took me a year to figure out the right delivery method that was receptive to various audiences, especially senior leadership. So when I got a chance
Craig, hold on. When you were going through this, how did he know that you were the guy? I mean, had you been talking about suicide prevention and all that, or he just liked your attitude, or what? Like, how did he land you?
He knew I was heartbroken when it came to the subject of suicide. In a 20+ year career, and that includes the 4 years as an Army civilian, I lost 182 men to suicide.
Jesus.
And, yeah, one of the kids at the center, at the correction center, had asked me. He's like, "Hey, what's your number?" Because you want to know, combat type numbers. I was like, "Yeah, man, we don't ask that question." I said, "But let me tell you the number I hold on to, and it sticks with me today." And I told him 182. He goes, "What's that?" I was like, "The number of men I lost to suicide in a 24-year career." Whoa. And that resonated with the group, and they just kind of looked at each other. I was like, "So think about that." Well, when I was still in uniform and I was based out of Fort Huachuca, Arizona, which is in the southeast corner of Arizona, it's the home for military intelligence. We call it the Army's best kept secret. We're out of sight, out of mind, beautiful area, base of the mountains, 5,000 foot elevation, up to almost 10,000 foot elevation. Just a gorgeous area that you wouldn't think would exist in Arizona. And in 2010, I was what's called the operations sergeant for all law enforcement activities. So I was basically the deputy chief of police for military police and our civilian police, SWAT teams, all that jazz. And in 2010, the uptick we had with suicide was insane. Our worst year in the Army was in 2012. We were just short of 400 men lost in that 1 year period. And I kept responding to suicide attempts over and over. And it was killing my guys and the PTSD they would have associated with it. So I went to this guy, his name's Kevin Mills. He used to be my director again. And I said, Kevin, we need a plan. And we didn't have anything in place. The Army had their suicide prevention training, but it was a joke. In it was a slideshow and it was horrible. It was like 90 slides long and it was dry and boring and it didn't get to the heart of the matter. So we basically wrote a memorandum, a policy that the commanding general at the time said, okay, I'll support it. And we did it. We created a team. I think that's part of the reason why he wanted to bring me on. And he liked that I was, how do I say this, politely aggressive.
I like that. I'm okay with that.
I've been through all the negotiation schools, hostage negotiator, all that jazz. And I wasn't, I mean, there was fear, of course, but I would walk right in the room and sit right in front of the guy while he's holding a pistol to his head going, okay, let's talk about this. Let's figure this out. You know, what's your plan? Who are you going to hurt after? You know, just trying to get in their head. And then when I got the formal training as an Army civilian, I just redesigned it. I took my incumbent who was retiring. His style was horrible. I'm not going to lie. And if he's listening, I hope his ears are burning right now. The Army had, according to the regulation, a requirement where you had to teach one class per week minimum. So this dude, he was there for the paycheck. He would do one class a week, and that was just the in processing new arrivals, you know, new soldiers to the base and stuff like that. It was 2.5 hours long, and I'm doing a right seat kind of thing where I'm kind of learning, and I'm watching him, and he separates this group, and it was maybe 100 soldiers that were in the classroom. He separates them in two groups, puts them in a circle, and he says, okay, talk about suicide. And I was like, oh, hell no, man, what are you doing? Because in one group, there was a full bird colonel, okay, an 06 in the U.S. Army, and then you got a private across from him, and this is his first duty station. And I'm just watching, and I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel kosher, man. So I walked right in the middle. I said, hey, sir, give me a second. He's like, did you interrupt me? I was like, yeah, calm down with your ego, man. Chill. I looked at the private. I said, hey, brother, let me ask you a question. He's like, yes, sir. I said, are you going to talk openly about suicide? He's like, what do you mean? I said, have you lost anybody? He goes, well, yeah. He broke down. He said, I lost my mom. I said, all right, I'm sorry about that. Are you going to talk about it with that dude sitting across from me? He goes, no. Yeah. I said, here's the problem. So I told my dude, I said, hey, when I take over and this guy's out of my office, I said, do I have autonomy? He goes, yep, just stay within the regulation. And I went nuts. And then in 2018, I got an opportunity to brief the Joint Chiefs. And it's a very intimidating room when you're telling the Marine Corps Commandant that your answer was the dumbest thing I ever heard. The question was simple. And because of an NDA, I can't tell you who it was. But my question was simple. I said, who is at fault when someone kills himself? And he's like, the last Marine that talked to him is at fault. I was like, yeah, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Jesus, that's stupid.
Thank you. Right. So I was like, no. I was like, that's the problem. So they said, okay, we'll support your program. We're going to give you 3 bases. So they gave me Fort Huachuca, Arizona. That's mostly Army. And at these 3 bases I'm talking about, we had all branches. Except the Space Force, which is just insane. I just, they adopted the Star Trek symbol. How can you take that seriously? I mean, please. Anyway, so all these bases had all branches there. So I had Fort Huachuca, Arizona, Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas, and then Pensacola Naval Air Station in Florida, which is home of the Blue Angels. And they said, prove it. I was like, all right. So I had to go to work. A lot of traveling, a lot of late nights, just nonstop. And I decided to train first responders. And when I mean first responders, I mean the sergeant, the team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant level, company commanders, the command teams, all the way up to colonel and command sergeant major on how to be my first responders. And then we had to create commonality of language. And in 2013, we actually defined what suicidology is in just 3 simple categories. That's basically, ideation, self-harm without the intent to die, and attempt and self-harm with the intent to die.
So Craig, how many lives have you saved, would you say? Would you know that number? I mean, I'm assuming it's a lot.
Brother, I have no idea. But I can say this, in the year 2019, calendar year and fiscal year of 2019, in those 3 bases, I didn't lose a single person to suicide. Not a civilian, not a contractor, not a family member, not a service member, nothing. And
okay, one of the things that's first of all, that's amazing. Virtual high five to you. Boom.
Thanks,
second, one of the things you wrote down and I saw is that you think suicide is 100% preventable. Do you really think that?
Oh, truly. It's the only preventable death out there. And it's the one death that leaves families, friends, coworkers, organizations in complete despair because they don't know why they did it. Yeah. And that I know that ticked off a person I was talking down recently, and they said, well, I've got a letter. I was like, cool. I read hundreds of letters, and to this day, I still have no idea why. If someone dies by cancer, we know why. If it's an act of God, a natural disaster, etc., car accident, and we know why, the mechanism of injury has been defined by a doctor. That's easier to heal from than I still have no idea why.
Yeah. Oh, I get it.
Yes, it is 100% preventable. Even people who are truly dedicated. And I've talked the same guy down several times because he was just adamant about wanting to take his life until we figured out the reason why. And I just call those contributing factors. Everything that we have in life is just a contributing factor that gets us to that moment of hopelessness and helplessness, despair. We surrender to it. And you don't have a coping mechanism because you're afraid to talk about it because the subject still to this day is taboo.
Okay, so stop right there because that's my next question I wanted to get into. You have problems with dudes. That's kind of the thing about the show is that I'm willing to just talk about anything. I have no problem saying, I don't know, let's learn about it. So how do you deal with people and find out what their triggers are? Because I know you talk about that a lot. If they're not willing to open up, because you got dudes that are like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. We recently in the NGBN community, we had someone who committed suicide and I spoke to the dude every single day, like literally every single day. And all of a sudden, boom. And now I call him, damn it, Jim, because every once in a while I'll just walk around the house. I'm like, damn it, Jim. Like, how did you not talk to me? And we talked about everything, but I guess not everything. So how do you find out the triggers of people that don't speak?
Well, you got to break down the reality that shame is okay. And that if they're depressed, that's fantastic. And when a person told me, what do you mean? I said, if you go through life, never depressed ever, you're not paying attention and you're just purely apathetic.
Yeah.
So you've got to break down that shame. So I would always talk openly about my demons. Now, I'll be honest, Chris, I've never been suicidal, man. Never. I've been depressed. I had an injury in 2008 where I got hit in the back of the head and I was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, couldn't see for about 3 months. So yeah, from being this so-called badass operator to being debilitated, that was rough. And I talk openly about that. And I tell myself, guys, I have life experience. You're not going to tell me anything that's going to shock me or embarrass me or make me go, man, that's so gross. No, you got to find out their trigger. And I'll be open. I'll say, hey, can I share with you? And you always got to ask permission when you're talking people down because you don't want to look like I'm trying to one up you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd always tell my guys when I would train them, if your ego has low self-esteem, do not talk to somebody suicidal. It's not about you. Because if your ego needs to be greased and polished every single day, hey, you tied your shoes. You're so great. Hey, you started the car. You stopped at the stop. You showed up to work on time. Oh, my God, we love you. No, that's not the person that needs to talk to somebody who's suicidal. And I'd always ask him, hey, can I share with you something? Like, yeah, what's up? I was like, my trigger for PTSD. Oh, and that's the other taboo topic, post-traumatic stress. I always say post-traumatic stress. I try not to put the D in there because the word disorder has that connotation of I'm broke.
Oh.
And I would tell people, I was like, if you have post-traumatic stress, congrats. They're like, what do you mean? You survived. So let's turn that into post-traumatic growth.
Oh.
And I use that as my mantra when I'm talking folks down. So I would tell them openly, I was like, hey, I have post-traumatic stress. I'm still growing on it. Like, what do you mean? I said, my ghosts and my demons haunt me almost every single night. I said, my trigger is the smell of burning hair. So I talked to a lot of brilliant psychiatrists and psychologists. Say, hey, help me figure out this model of training. I said, okay. And we discovered it very simple. Your emotional state at the time that you were exposed to your trigger, and say yours and mine, for hypothetically, are the smell of burning hair. It's different for both.
Are you saying burning hair or air?
Hair. So when you get hit by roadside bombs, when you get hit by roadside bombs, stuff like that, the first thing that gets incinerated in the human body is hair.
Ooh.
And when you get exposed to that too much, it sticks with you. So my triggers are usually smells, not sounds. Fireworks don't do anything to me, but certain smells will get me. So when I told the psychiatrist, I said, hey, mine's burning hair. How do I use this in a training model, in a prevention model? I said, okay, your emotional state at the time that you are exposed to your trigger will dictate how you respond to it. Case in point, say you've got a full head of hair. Okay. And I'm talking about you, Chris.
Yeah.
And you and I are at Disneyland, and you and I are getting ready, and we're going to get out there. We're so excited. We're going to see Mickey. We're going to go to the Galaxy's Edge, do some Star Wars stuff, design a lightsaber, et cetera, et cetera. We are in a good mood. Okay, so let's make it even better. We're with our ladies, whatever, and they're curling and burning their hair to make sure that they are Disneyland perfect. And I get exposed to that odor. I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to separate because I'm in a good mood. I'm fine. My emotional state, I'm elated. I have joy. However, what if we're all together and we're getting ready for a funeral and I get exposed to that odor?
Yeah, no bueno.
See the difference? So that's what I used in my training and prevention model was how you respond to your trigger will dictate everything.
Okay. But say someone's in a massive funk. Okay. And they cannot see positive in front of them. They just can't. They're broke. They're having whatever issues. Wife's leaving them. Kids just got in an accident, whatever. And they've got no positive in front of them. How do you get that guy out of a funk?
You have to be relatable, and you have to, at the end of the day, recognize his contributing factors and validate them. So yeah, that sucks. You have to be honest. You can't say, oh, it's going to get better by today. I don't know. No, you got to tell him the truth, man. You can't lie to a dude who was suicidal. You got to tell him the truth. And there's been times I've had to be borderline grotesque. I had a guy, he's a command sergeant major. He and I served together for many years. He'd been in the Army 34 years. And at the time, the Army changed the rules when it came to forced retirement. If you were not being promoted to a higher position of authority and you were over your 20-year mark, they would tell you, thank you for your service. It's time to retire. Well, this guy's single, never been married. His whole life was the military. He put everything, his heart and soul into it. And he wanted to go to the 40 years where that's actually a mandatory cutoff at 40 years. So at 34 years, he was not getting promoted to a position of higher authority, et cetera. And this gentleman was in a very, very serious position in special operation aviation regiment. Sorry, 14 TBIs. Sometimes I mess it up. Anyways, and that's the other thing. When we started seeing that increase in TBIs, we saw an increase in suicidal behavior.
Hold on. What the hell's a TBI?
Traumatic brain injury. I've had 14 from roadside bombs.
Military people love to use abbreviations.
Yeah, our acronyms are the devil, man. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I got nothing.
So anyways, this poor gentleman, I get the call. He hadn't showed up to work, and he was never late. And he wasn't answering his phone. So something was off. So they sent some military police guys there, and they're looking in the window, and they called me immediately, say, you need to get over here. So I show up, and I was like, what am I looking at? And I peek in the window. He had taped a sawed-off shotgun around his head and to his hands.
Jesus.
And because his contributing factor was being told, thank you for your service, you're done. So you got to get creative. And I even used Rush one day to talk a guy down. I say, man, who's your favorite band? I heard music playing before I walked in. He goes, oh, I was listening to Rush. I was, man, I love Rush. He's like, no, you don't. I was like, oh, hold up. I got you. That talked him now. That helped. So I walk in. I was like, Sergeant Major, brother, battle. What are we doing, man? He's like, the Army told me I have to retire. I was like, so you never thought this job was going to end one day? You didn't think that eventually we're going to get to take off this uniform? He goes, I'm not ready. I was like, brother, congratulations. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you made it. All the years together in combat, you survived. This is your graduation ceremony. I was like, you need to stand up in front of everybody so they can honor you and recognize you. So we actually did a retirement ceremony just for him. Normally you get like about a dozen people together that are in the same window and you do this big ceremony. We did it just for him. There was over 1,000 people on the field. And, you know, so I used that to talk him down. I used his contributing factor to talk him down. I said, you made it. He goes, yeah, but what am I going to do? I said, brother, I didn't know what I was going to do. And look at me. I'm here in front of you in a suit. I'm like, let's go get a beer. Come on. You know, let's go listen sadly, I ended up having to tackle him because I saw his finger go inside the trigger well. And he told me that he wasn't going to do it, but I didn't know. So I tackled him, dropped the slide, all that jazz. He's like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. So here's what I know, Chris. Everybody that I was not successful in talking down, and they would do an attempt right in front of me as we're saving their life, 100% of those people would say, I don't want to die. When they start realizing that the heart is fading, they're getting down to 22 beats per minute, and not because they're in shape. You know, it's getting cloudy. You know, their eyes are getting fuzzy. You know, they're having a hard time hearing, and they're saying it repeatedly, I do not want to die, Craig. Please save me. I'm like, I got you.
Okay, so how do you maintain, this is obviously a very heavy subject. How do you maintain positivity and happiness in your daily life when you have to deal with so much negativity?
You got to turn it around. If I'm successful in talking somebody down, that's a good day.
Yeah, that's a great day. Jesus.
You know, and you've got to be upbeat. So yeah, music is my go-to thing. And I am open with my fiance. When I have a bad dream, if I wake up, you know, I'll tell her. I mean, I'll tell her right then, but I'll tell her later. And I don't tell her anything grotesque. And she knows I have my top 3 worst dreams. But I will open up with her. And if I say I got to go for a drive, she knows it's major. And I always come back and say, okay, I'm ready to talk. She never judges. She doesn't call me a barbarian. She doesn't say I'm evil. She's like, okay, you're home. You're okay. You're fine. Good job. You did it. Well done. And you have to be able to know that's why I go back to that post-traumatic growth. You're still growing. Until the day I die, I will deal with the ghosts and the demons, but it's post-traumatic growth. So you got to be able to turn that around and take your life experiences, share it willingly with those who want to hear it and say, hey man, I've been there, done that. I've never been suicidal. So I can't sympathize with you, but I can be 100% empathetic. And if I have to get down to the brass tacks and say, here's who's going to miss you after. I had one guy, oh man, it was tough, really tough. And before I walked in, the wife was there, and she was scared to death, of course. And before I walked in, I said, do me a favor. I said, normally I don't get on my phone when I'm talking to these guys. Text me as many pictures as you can of everything he loves. She's like, you got it. So she's sending me pictures of her kids, their German Shepherd that he got it as a pup, family members, all these things. And he's like, no one's going to miss me on this earth. I was like, really? How about this dude? And I hold up my phone and I'm just swiping. I was like, her? Like, yeah, she's outside, by the way. He's like, what? My wife's outside? I was like, oh yeah. So if she hears this gunshot go off, I said, what do you think that's going to do to her for the rest of her life? I say, so that's the other twist when it came to the response model and the prevention model. The accountability is on the individual who is suicidal. When they say, oh, it's the commander's fault, it's the world's fault. One dude said, I'm going to kill myself because the rainforest is being depleted. I was like, okay, cool. Have you ever been to Brazil? No, then shut up. Seriously, no. Let's try harder, man. You have to put the accountability. Exactly. Please. And don't order the zucchini strips. They're disgusting.
It's not that good.
Actually squashes the Satan's vegetable. But you got to put the accountability back on the individual because they're the one feeling like this. I didn't make you feel like this. When they say, well, my first sergeant, my company commander suck. I said, maybe, but they're outside too, hoping you don't end your life. And then we had to make sure that they were not punished for it, especially guys in uniform, because that's how we used to treat suicide. So we had to change the language. Let me ask you a question. Have you heard me say the word commit at any point in this?
No.
Here's the reason, Chris. Rapists commit rape. Murderers commit murder. Nobody commits suicide. It's not a crime.
Oof.
We have to get rid of that word because the connotation of that word commit is what we used to use, especially in the Army. If you were suicidal, done. Conversation's over. I'm going to send you to the wizard. They're going to prescribe you some stuff. I want you to sit in the corner, out of sight, out of mind. Take your dope, drool, listen to Pink Floyd, and don't say a word. The other spectrum was when you get back from the wizard, I'm going to work you to death. So when you get home, you're so exhausted. No, when they get back, they're ready to move forward, post-traumatic growth.
Yeah, I like that.
You've got to be able to tell them that you felt like this. What's your contributing factor? When I would identify that contributing factor, I was like, great. Like, why is that so important? I said, because when I create your safe plan, I'm going to make sure that you understand you will be exposed to your trigger and your contributing factor over and over and over.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. So one guy's like, well, the smell of exhaust drives me nuts. I'm like, well, we can't fix that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go live on Mars.
When I do my presentation, I've got a few slides in it. And I took that 96 slideshow and I turned it into maybe 30 with deep resonating thought into it. Some of my slides would just have one word on it, like fear, shame, discredit, dishonor. So I've got a series of slides that I say, hey, let's look at a few contributing factors that people have told me. And as I'm going through these, ask yourself if they're rational to you. That's the question before it. On one of the slides, it's got scattered thought. I got all these different contributing factors on there. One of them is Elvis. So every now and then I'll get somebody say, Craig, tell me about Elvis. Seriously? Are you kidding? And I always lead in by saying, well, one, Elvis is not dead. Okay.
Oh.
Let's accept that. Okay. He's out there somewhere, hopefully. Anyways, I said, well, here's what happened. I said, I had a soldier, special operations soldier, Green Beret, who hated Elvis. And he told his wife, never play Elvis when I'm home, but he never told her why. So one day he gets back early from a deployment, and his deployment was one of those short ones, about 4 weeks long. And it was rough. It was really rough on him. He gets back early because he wanted to surprise his wife. Whenever we got back from a deployment or a mission, there was always this honeymoon phase. And you wanted to exploit that because you wanted to forget everything you just did. He walks in and she's playing Elvis really loud.
Oh,
he breaks down. He doesn't even look at her. When he's walking away, she turns around, realizing somebody's in the house. She sees it's him. He goes straight to his locker where his gun was at, goes to charge the slide. And that's when she grabbed the weapon. She's like, what are you doing? Two things happen. His contributing factor and trigger was Elvis, but he was also on this medication called Prazosin. And the military is notorious for just prescribing dope. The opioid crisis, the military started it. Let's be honest. We were just prescribed. So he was actually allergic to one of the chemicals that was in Prazosin. And what they didn't know was if he got exposed to his trigger, the Prazosin acted in a negative manner. So the medication was telling him, we can't do this anymore. So when I get there, talk him down, all that jazz, I get inside his head. I was like, talk to me, brother. Been there, done that. Same blood, same mud. What's going on? He's like, she was playing Elvis. I was like, oh, okay. Give me more, man.
Yeah,
you know, and I kind of chuckled.
What?
He's like, I can't. It's too traumatic. I was like, exactly. That's why we need to get it out there. She didn't know that when he was 16 and his mom killed herself and he walked in coming home from high school, that Elvis was playing in the background. Yeah. So she's dead on the floor and Elvis is playing.
Yeah.
So I tell people, I was like, so is that rational for him? And that's where I break down the mentality of other people, especially the naysayers and the skeptics. Those are my favorite people in the audience, truly. I'll say, was that rational for him? I said, because your perception is not their reality.
Yeah. Craig, okay. Number one, I want to thank you for saving all these lives for those dudes. I mean, that's incredible. And that is just unbelievable. We've been posting slides up here where it says suicide prevention hotline. I think it's 988. I think Jenna's been posting that. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, you were phenomenal. I really appreciate your time. How can people reach out to you? How can they contribute? What can they do?
Reach out to me. I mean that.
Our website, email, cell phone, what?
My email. I think you have it. CraigHannum42@gmail.com.
CraigHannum42@gmail.com.
Yeah. Send me an email. Reach out to me. I'm the suicide prevention officer for the American Warfighter nonprofit group that's here in the Valley that helps out veterans, first responders, stuff like that within a 100-mile radius. We're working on business cards. We have a dedicated phone number. That way, and all those guys, by the way, are going to get trained. They're going to get my 4-hour class so they can be suicide interventionists. So we're all speaking the same language and we have the same commonality of language. That's important as well because you don't want to go in hard and heavy. Sometimes you have to, but you have to be able to be a unified front and have first responders that are trained to deal with mental health distress. Make no mistake, suicidology is mental health distress at its finest. And sadly, even our first responders, our finest here in Lewiston, not all of them are trained. They're trained to respond to crisis, but mental health distress, that's tough.
Craig, when you get a commercial,
what questions do you ask?
When you get a commercial for this, I want you to make sure we get it, and we'll post it up on here and shoot it out all over the NGBN.TV network because I think everyone will really appreciate it. I know we're getting some great response because we're live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And Dave Bradley, Sub 60, all loving it. Randy Chevalier, I can't pronounce his damn last name. But Craig, I really appreciate it. We're going to go to commercial, and then I'm going to come back with the bottom line. That's everything you should have learned without even realizing you learned it. Craig Hannum, everybody. I'm out.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
This is NGBN TV, a network for men and home to top experts, speakers, authors, and more. Streaming TV for men, created by men.
But why?
Why are we a network that inspires,
educates, entertains, celebrates, and supports
men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, simply to save men's lives?
There is an epidemic in our community,
and it's taking men from us.
I'm talking about mental health and suicide.
But we have an answer, and it's streaming, live shows, sports, concerts, and more.
In a real way for men to lock shields.
We can't wait to launch this TV network for you and with you.
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 Join our movement at NGBN.TV, coming January 2024.
Focus up. I'm talking to you, AC and Randy and Chevy and Nasty and everyone out there tonight. 9 p.m. Pacific time. We've got AC Sports Live. Do not forget to check that out. It's fantastic. Followed right after with Chevy and Nasty, The Ride. That's going to be at 10 p.m. Pacific time. Both are great shows on the NGBN.TV network. Make sure you check them out. 9 o'clock for AC Sports Live, 10 o'clock. This is Pacific. Okay, both times Pacific for The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. Fantastic. All right, that was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Craig, I knew he'd be good. I didn't know he'd be that good. This is our longest show. I usually try to go about 30 minutes, and we're at 49:40, and we could have kept talking for 3 hours with that guy. That was wonderful. So let's get to the bottom line. The bottom line for all you new watchers and listeners, this is all the stuff you should have learned without even realizing you learned it. Number one, choose your goals wisely. Number one, choose your goals wisely. Remember, Monaghan talked about clear goals, obtainable goals, and different goals for different parts of your life. Okay, choose your goals wisely. Number two, if something is good, it's okay to revisit it and do it again and again. This is the story about the skydiving. It's a great story. I'm going to tell it 100,000 times. You know why? Because it's fantastic and people like to hear it, and it's funny. Okay, because you could just picture me with a little Kawato on my back from Total Recall, and I basically have a baby Bjorn, and I have to jump out of this dog door. And last but not least, identify and dominate. This is all about Craig. He was talking about the triggers. Shame is okay. Depression is okay. I love how he said PTS and then he left off the D. That's because it's not a disorder. We got to move past that. That was really, really good. I highly recommend you guys share that. Whew, this was a good show. I knew it would be good, but I'm going to say borderline great. Well, thank you so much for everyone subscribing to the RubioMethod.com, NGBN.TV, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Google. And if you have any questions, you can always email Rubio@therubiomethod.com. That's all for right now. I'm out.